Hi, and welcome to season 2 of Asteria's Combos, where we're community building the future. I'm your host, Asteria Elzea, hosting from unceded Tongva land. Identify strongly as a farm girl thanks to my childhood on the traditional lands of the Sauk and Fox peoples. I'm also chronically ill, non binary, neurodivergent, and polyamorous. And I'm a practicing witch. My life is super affected by my PTSD, as well as my white settler ancestry. I've spent the last decade training in human connection to connect to ourselves, to people different than us, and to be in community with each other. I'm highly trained in attachment and trauma informed group facilitation. My work history is widely varied: theatrical technician, special events coordination, bud tender, you know, at a dispensary, t-shirt shop manager, and data analyst. I hope this podcast is informed by all my experiences and my education, in addition to my guests. Season 2 has a thread flowing through it about how our hope for the future is learning to have more intentional collaboration with others. We must build coalitions, and we must look out for each other. Let's get down to business. Hi, and welcome to Asteria's Convos, where we're community building the future. I'm going to stand up and light a candle and let today's guests introduce themselves with name and pronouns and what identities they lead with.
Hey, I love that you're lighting a candle. I would like to know what it smells like.
It's a rose candle today.
I love Rose. Anyway, my name is not Rose, though. Hey, I'm Gilly Moon. My pronouns are she, her. I identify with a lot of things. On the superficial front, I'm a cisgendered woman. I'm a sound designer and proud audio engineer. I'm a wife and best friend to my husband. I'm a dog mom. And I see myself as a collaborator, like wherever I am. So, yeah, that's me.
I think there are some identities you might have left out, mainly runner.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, I'm a runner. I'm an ultra runner. I just did my first ultra in January. It was really hard, but really exciting. The hardest part was probably actually running for 6 months. I mean, not straight, obviously. That would be the ultimate ultra run. But training for it, like running for hours on Saturdays and then training through the week. And yeah, so I would say that's the hardest part of ultra running. But yeah, because I did that, I'm an ultra runner. Yeah.
Absolutely, you are. You ran the ultra.
I did it. I finished it. And even if I didn't finish it, still an ultra runner.
Yeah. So, Gilly, what's your work in the world?
My work in the world, I mean, I feel like there's so many ways to interpret that. There's the literal work, which is I am a sound designer and audio engineer. I've done a lot of themed entertainment and immersive type stuff. I also am getting more game audio clients, particularly with cozy games, though I've dabbled in a lot of it. I know, it's so nice. I'm like really thankful for the cozy game era because I mean, I've played video games like my whole life and I always was like a big time waster in them. And I would find the stupidest things to do, like talk to the same people over and over in the event that they would say something different and it was not an integral part of like moving the story forward at all. So when cozy games got to be a thing, I'm like, oh, you can like do things and you're just like derping around. So I was like, thank you. But yeah, so I've got a couple of those that I've done. I worked at NPR for 5 years as an audio engineer and spent 7 months as the podcast technical director, where it was overseeing audio quality of the podcasts, but also mentoring producers, other audio engineers, and authoring a lot of documentation on like workflows and processes. And then on the, day-to-day audio engineering side, recording interviews, doing a lot of audio restoration, which is where we make bad audio sound better. And yeah, man, so on the work front, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm also, in terms of sound design and audio engineering, I insert myself is No, I think that's right because it's not necessarily aggressive. I insert myself into environments that might be really collaborative where everyone has equal, I guess, equal contribution.
Mhm.
Like I just did a game jam and we all like worked really hard, but worked together and like, made this thing that,
What's a game jam?
oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a game jam it's kind of a competition. You have X amount of time to make an entire game. So this one was 72 hours.
Wow.
Uh, so I get myself into situations. My work in the world, in one way, is doing these things that are really collaborative
Mhm.
and figuring out how to support the people around me for the sake of the story and for the sake of, doing what the sound design needs, but not at the cost of other departments, like their sanity or the story. So how do you carry that forward with sound in a way that sound is very present, that it immerses the audience, but also it's not the first thing you think of. It's kind of an old cliche in sound design that if you think, "Oh, the sound was great," then it wasn't, or if you might think the sound is great, but I think what I'm trying to say is if you notice the sound, that's not typically a good thing, and there are these big sound moments that are necessary, but if people notice the sound and actively think about it, it's not really doing its job.
Yeah. Coming up in theater and film, I definitely heard a lot that, like,
Mm.
if you notice the sound design, then or that you shouldn't notice the sound design for it to be doing its job. You should be that immersed in the world, and it should
Mhm.
feel so natural that you
Mhm.
shouldn't be noticing the sound. But that does mean that sound is one of the underappreciated departments.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. It's also we get a lot of pressure from the audio engineering standpoint. We are supporting people's voices in a lot of ways, and that can
Mhm.
feel very intimate, like whether it's putting a mic on an actor, and it can also feel very vulnerable. And it's if you don't like if I do not do if someone isn't heard, like that really comes back to me. It's a huge responsibility. And it's been interesting working in sound and like coming up in it because like I see myself as like an artist and a creative,
Yeah.
but I'm also often at the service of others. And I think
Mhm.
like that's a good thing. I think it feels wonderful to support the story. It can also be you have to figure out how to do it in a way where you're also saying, "No, I need to insert myself here, and you need to pay attention to the sound department for a second because this will come back at us later." So you mentioned film. Say someone's on location and we can't get a mic in somewhere, or maybe the AD doesn't want to bother with taking the time for me to rig up a mic properly. If that has to be recorded later in what we call ADR, automatic dialogue replacement, that's costly and it probably won't sound as good because we'll have to do a lot of processing to make it fit in acoustically with the scene.
Yes.
So the whole idea that sound shouldn't be noticed, I think is important from the audience perspective.
Mhm.
But I really believe that we are experts and collaborators. And actually, what frustrated me when I was working more in theater a lot of the time was that sound had to do things around everyone else versus I'd say, no, well, what if we did this? Like, this would be more interesting. And it often got sort of,
Waved off.
yeah, exactly. Not all the time. There were some really good collaborators, but theater seems to be the last thing to really like appreciate sound.
Sure.
So, but I do think it's changing. It's just interesting to see all these different like ways of working with the sound department. Yeah.
Mm. Absolutely. So, I think one of the things you are great at is definitely, like you've said, collaborating, building community, mentoring others. How do you think about that in action?
That's such an interesting question. So, like I mentioned, I was the podcast technical director at NPR, and a lot of that was mentoring people and at
Mhm.
times being like, oh, this thing isn't done right, or not necessarily right, but like there's a more efficient way of accomplishing this task. Like, so, I would have to be comfortable with going to producers or other audio engineers and saying, hey, it's now a good time for me to talk to you about this thing. But then when they need to come to me with a question, making myself available for that as well. So building that relationship respectfully was really important because if I need to get something from someone else, right? Like, hey, please record this in a better environment. Let's talk about how I can like give you advice and like resources for acoustic treatment.
Mhm.
Then if they say, wait, but how do I do this editing or file management thing, then I need to make sure I'm available to help them when they need me, not just when I need them to do something. So definitely building community and collaborating that way where I'm not just like thinking of myself.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're a very respectful and considerate person. So I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that, like,
I love that.
thanks. I'm sure that that plays into, like, how you build relationships naturally.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, audio engineering is like a role of service, like I was saying before, on the front of being like a collaborator too. When I was coming up in audio, I got the advice a lot of, oh, it's a service role. Like, do you want the chicken or the steak? But the more I'm like, I deserve to insert myself and give my expertise too. I think the metaphor should be more like, we've got steak. Do you want it medium rare or like cooked or well done? So like we have this thing. How do you want it to work for you? Versus someone just being able to
Yeah, I think I might
request
need a
something that,
more
yeah.
specific example of the chicken or the steak. I don't know that I've ever heard that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of like a situation specific thing. So in terms of the chicken or steak metaphor, it's kind of like, do you want it to sound like example A or like example B? And they could be drastically different things or different technical setups, but oftentimes, especially in how like venue or studio infrastructure works.
Is that like, do you want me to use a pre-recorded bell sound, or do you want me to record about bell sound, or do we want a live bell sound?
That would
Or
be, I feel like that would fall under, actually, I can work with that. In terms of like what sound effect do you want? That's more so up to me. And that's where we get into,
the design
yeah,
aspects?
exactly. Like
Yeah.
you need a bell sound. And then the service role part might be, what's the story implication? What's the setting? What's the time period? And then from there, I can say, okay, well, I can record it like this, or I can use this library. Yeah, in terms of, I'm just trying to think of an example that doesn't give away anything I've done that might like, in my business, in our business, there's a lot of, you can't really reveal a lot because of NDAs or just like
That's true.
material.
Yeah.
So imagine if I'm in a studio and there's a host, say it's a podcast interview, because that's probably a very accessible like example.
Right, we're doing one
It'll
right now.
exactly. This might be a
We're in
little
a
meta.
podcast and
Relatable. So say we're in a studio, a host is in the studio with me and we're about to have like a guest come in.
Mhm.
If they say, or if it's up to me to kind of decide mic position and where the guest sits, like if there are several mic options. Do you want, I'm going to avoid saying that metaphor because I'm like trying to shoehorn it in a little too much, but
Okay, cool. Yeah.
uh, but if say the host like says they have to sit at this mic because this other thing wasn't working
Mhm.
yesterday. Well, that host doesn't know that I've been in the studio and have already fixed things. So really at that point, it's like, it's up to me in the moment to want to understand where the host is coming from and why that is, but also for me to make the call and say, no, they need to sit over here so they can look at you or see some visual cues or whatnot. So that's where it's kind of like, it's service in that it's not bending over backwards or accommodating or doing things that like technically can't be accomplished. It's service in that here's what I can offer you and what do you want out of these sort of guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making suggestions for what could be best, but also being open to other people's
Mhm.
opinions as well.
Yeah, and a lot of it's comfort level from the audio engineering standpoint, or in terms of the sound design standpoint. If I'm working with a director or developer, they might know things about other departments or the code or the story that I'm not aware of in the immediate moment.
Mhm.
So ultimately, I'm also serving them in the story. And like a good example is in film in particular, there's this thing called temp love where an editor will need to throw in a sound effect for the sake of, needing to elevate the story in the editing stages. And then the director and the editor will like fall in love with the sound effect. And then it gets to the sound designer, sound mixer, and the sound designer might think it's inappropriate, but then it's up to us to be like, okay, well, does it fit though? Like, or is it just like, do I just not like the sound quality? Like, what is it about it that like the director and editor are super attached to? But ultimately, if the director and editor think like love it and think it fits in the scene, that's something that I have to accept. So,
And work around.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
So how do you find like the video game jams, or how do you find that you're actually building community?
yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, there's the obvious thing of like simply meeting new people, but then also you have to sort of drop your ego a little bit because, on a practical standpoint, not everything you do might be implemented. So, like, I think during this game jam, I made something like 50 sound effects over the course of a weekend, which is a lot. And by the way, that means like varieties of each effect as well. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was really fun. And I got to, like, flex my sound design muscles, which is always welcome. So, recognizing the big picture, I think, and being aware of things around you and the ultimate common goal is a way to build community because you're all on the same page about the same goal. And
Yeah.
then also being willing to see how others do things. And if it isn't a way you would accomplish it, being willing to either learn why and share ideas or kind of accept that that's the way that person is doing something and learn why. There was a situation where someone had worked really hard on some code. This was like me just observing it. Someone had worked really hard on some code, and this other dev was like, "Well, what if I just this isn't the way I would do it. Like, I'm going to rewrite it." And then someone else had to step in and say, "Well, hold on, we do game jams for portfolio pieces. This person worked really hard on this code. It's
Yeah.
working fine, so maybe don't change it." So, to kind of sum it up, you're building community and you're on the same page, hopefully, about what the ultimate goal is. You're
Mhm.
willing to compromise
Yeah.
for the story and then also for the sake of actually submitting something because you've got only 3 days to do it. And then also you're like, on my front, I'm submitting work that might not get implemented, so I've dropped my ego and say, "Here's what I'm supplying to elevate the story." I also understand if it can't be immediately implemented, but then it's up to me to communicate what I do think is important. And usually it's stuff in terms of like more player feedback, like you need to hear a sound when this button is hit,
Yeah.
than anything that's like extra, like a ton of ambiances or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
I think that the some of the things you just said really reminded me of ways that anyone could help be build or could build community,
mhm,
like thinking of the common goal and then
mhm.
building like I've talked to some people lately about how to do coalition building,
Hmm,
and you have to find what is the commonality that you're maybe you don't like what the government's doing right now and you're resisting, and that's like
uh,
the commonality, but there's still going to be a lot of different ways to resist.
Right.
right?
That's so interesting.
And so, or there's going to be different opinions on each side, but ultimately, like something that happened is a fascist action, and it's important to resist that,
Yeah.
whether, like, no matter what your opinion is on the action.
Yeah. Yeah, then there's different ways of getting to the same thing,
Yeah.
which is resistance.
Right.
And I think I think community building can be kind of a very daunting idea or kind of like a really high level idea, but
Yeah.
really to me, you can build community by just realizing how your actions are potentially going to affect others
Yep.
and work within that. And that's building community because you're thinking about how you can support someone else in that instance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Also, maybe thinking about like the way you want to be treated in a situation, right?
That's such a big one, and I don't know where it's gotten lost, but I feel like, especially nowadays, there's so many people, like, kind of out for themselves without thinking, "How would I wanna be treated in this?" Like
Yeah. The idea of the golden rule to me is ultimately like, treat others how you want to be treated. I want to be treated like an absolute treasure. So I'm
Yeah.
going to treat other people like they are also absolute treasures.
And tell their shits to other
Well,
people,
until they're mean to me, in
you're
which
not worth my
case,
time.
yeah, we got a backbone and stuff. But I'm not going to just walk into any general situation and be like, well, you're beneath me.
I
Or,
know,
you know,
yeah. I love that. No, I think we need more of that, and that it's been interesting kind of having that value and being in my profession because again, service role, but then there are people who like talent who will respect you as a collaborator and an expert in your field, but then there are those who also will act like because you're serving them that I am beneath them and it gets really it would make me really mad sometimes like I've learned to let it go in a lot of ways because
Mhm.
I can't change everything,
Yeah.
but it used to make me very mad because I'd be like, "Well, I don't think you're beneath me. Like, why are you treating me like this way? I don't understand. Where's the justice in that?"
Yes, definitely. And like, I think that can be taken into like you go to a restaurant for lunch and
Mm,
like lots of my server friends get treated like they're beneath everybody that they're like serving. And just remembering that all the people you interact with are people, even if they're in a
yeah.
service position is just, yeah.
I think about that a lot, actually. I think about I mean, my metaphor that completely flopped earlier, kind of relates to it. I think about the waiter situation a
Mhm.
lot, but then and that apply like, everything I'm saying applies to them too, because I don't know what's going on in the kitchen, like, I don't know why they're out of the thing I want to eat, I'm not gonna be shitty to them for that reason. I also know they're experts in their field, so when they say they can't do something, I'm generally going to respect that, and it's amazing to me when people that I'm supporting technically question my call about something. It happens less and less, and I think the key is, like, asserting myself confidently, and that can be really hard some days, especially when you are in a role of service and someone is questioning you,
Mhm.
and that can really beat you down, and it wasn't till, like, maybe my earlier mid-30s where I started to get the confidence to not let it get to me. Yeah, it's a hard job, and it's a hard job to be in as, like, a feminine presenting person because we are typically seen as younger, just in term or naive is the right word. We're typically seen as
Well, you and me and some
yeah.
of our other friends have been seen as younger because
Mhm.
we're short
Yeah,
or pretty or have
yeah.
nice skin or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that idea that you're younger then means you're taken less seriously, even if you've
Mhm.
got a decade of experience, which
Mhm.
obviously you did when we were working together in your early
Yeah.
30s.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's an aspect. Also, just taken less seriously as a femme presenting person. Like, how could you
Yep.
have the technical knowledge?
Mhm. Yeah, "Why aren't you making a sandwich right now?" And
Right.
to which I say, "Why am I not making a sandwich right now?" Um, but it's for me. But, yeah, it's something that I think about a lot, but I'm also things are changing for the better, and I'm actively trying not to in some ways because it is also not good for my sanity or for the bigger picture if I'm saying, "Oh, they're treating me like that because of sexism," because that's not always the case, and it also devalues when sexism is a problem. Mm. I am also, like, as a cisgendered white woman in a, like, heterosexual marriage, I I'm kind of at the point where I'm not that oppressed in society, right? So,
Yeah.
I also think about there's other people who are marginalized a lot more, and we gotta pay attention to them. Like, it's not I was think so let me I'll get into a story.
Great.
I was talking with people the other day about and I brought up, that I'd met people who had pivoted from one aspect of audio into audio post-production and without working for free or anything because they knew someone, and I was like, "And all those people are men." And I was like and then things got a little weird, and they were like, "Oh, well, if they're not" my friends that I was chatting with were like, "Well, if they're good at their job, it's not just sexism." And I was like, "No, no, that's not what I'm saying." And then I got to thinking, I was like, "Well, we hire the people we know, and
Yeah.
they're usually our friends. So these people that are able to pivot are being hired by their buddies who are probably also
Men.
men." But then I look around at my audio circles, and a lot of them are feminine presenting. Like, I have some trans and non-binary friends in audio as well, which is great, but now I'm also like, well, how do I support other people if my circles are also all starting to look the same? How do I expand my circles? And that's also how I look at, like, my career in community building is, like, what am I missing from my circles? Because I don't want to say that there's a problem and then perpetuate that problem in a different way.
Exactly. You're
Mm.
so that's I think that moves us into how are you looking towards the future with your actions, right? Because the future we want is one where less and less people are oppressed. And so
Yeah.
then we have to be willing to look around us and think of what the problems are. And like when I had Finn on, who's one of our like good mutual friends,
Yeah.
we talked about the things that his job at TechMD is doing to
Yeah.
increase that diversity, right? Because
Mhm.
everybody around them literally was, I only have white men around me. So, like, you have to actively try.
Uh-huh.
It's a sociological effect that we
Mhm.
are friends with people that are similar to us. They could trace people a decade ago on Facebook and their friendships, and they'd be like, the people who like the French fries page are more likely to be highly intelligent. And that's just because the person who started the French fries page was a highly intelligent person.
I'd say
And
so.
so, like, that just the people who were connected to that page
Yeah.
we're more likely to be similar socioeconomic levels, similar intelligence levels, and it has nothing to do with French fries.
And that's disappointing because French fries deserve all the respect from many different kinds of people. Uh,
So you
yeah.
just have to like it's a thing that happens. It's also related to how like when we are babies, our
Mhm.
development is like we recognize expressions on faces that are around us. So that's going to be more of the people that are of your race typically. And so this effect where like white people will say that all Asian people look the same, or I've heard it the other way where Asian people will be like all white people look the same or whatever.
Mhm.
It's a like which sometimes I have trouble watching a drama and it's all brown-haired white men and I'm like, Who are these guys?"
I have trouble following a lot of politics on TV because I'm like, "Oh, they're all old men with white hair. And I'm like, well,
Which one
I
is
guess that's a
this?
different kind of sexism and ageism and racism, but
Yeah, but it is an effect, but you have to train your mind out of it so that
yeah.
by getting more used to being around those people and connecting with people that are different than you.
Yeah, and totally, absolutely, and it's sometimes a conscious effort because
Yeah.
we do hang out with people who are in similar circles, and I think there's no shame in knowing that you have unconscious biases, like,
Mm.
there are ways to admit them that, like, won't get you fired, but I think it's important to at least admit that to yourself and say, "I think this way about this group of people. How do I change that, or how do I actively make it so I'm not judging them or passing them over opportunities or something?" Yesterday, I was actually talking with a friend of mine. An identity that I forgot to mention in at the beginning was I was one of millions of women that were diagnosed with ADHD in their mid to late 30s.
Mm.
And I'm really careful about who I say that to because there are people, unfortunately, in this world who will, think, "Oh, well, you're just gonna forget that because you have ADHD." It's like, no, I've like the diagnosis has empowered me and informed me, but I've developed ways to be very good at my job and very good in social situations, usually. But I was talking with a friend of mine who is also neurodivergent, and we were both kind of like, "Wow, a lot of our friends are also neurodivergent," but it's also because we work with neurotypicals all day, we feel safer talking to other neurodivergent people. So I think that's an important thing to consider too,
Yeah.
not in terms of like, oh, we should only hang out with people that we feel safe with. I think we should make ourselves safe to others. I
Yeah.
realize that's kind of like cotton candy clouds and warm fuzzy feelings, but I mean, it's true. Like people have to feel like they belong. And as long as people are showing up and being considerate and have a good work ethic and aren't selfish or bad to other people, that's that's what I care about more than anything else. And I think I do what I can, at least when I'm in any situation, to make everyone feel like they belong as long as they're showing up in those ways.
What do you find? I love that so much, and it was great. It's an
Oh, yay.
excellent clip. What do you do to make it so people feel like they belong?
I get them involved in tasks or conversation. I mean, that's basically it. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be hard. So
Mm-mm.
there are people that like definitely like I'm super close to, and when I'm working with them, I can like zero in and it's a conversation between me and this other person. But then I try to bring in whoever else is around, especially I have a soft spot for quiet, shy people. So
Yeah.
as a former quiet, shy person, so if someone's kind of being quiet and by themselves, I might be like, "Oh, and you know about this thing, like, you did this," and then they'll contribute and, like, feel kinda hopefully feel included. So, it's just a conscious effort of making sure I'm not just giving all of my attention to one person, unless
Yeah.
it's, like, a creative situation and I'm actively having a discussion with a director or someone else and working, you know what I mean? But, like, more
Oh, yeah,
casually and
definitely.
when things aren't super under pressure due to time or anything like that, yeah, I try to get everyone involved, talk about I mean, with audio, it's almost too easy because there's always a new software or plugin or way of working, and you can always be like, "Oh, did you see that thing?" And someone will be like, "Oh, yeah, wait," or "Wait, what does that thing do?" So, as long as you find those common subjects, you can kind of just, make an effort to say, "Oh, hey, what do you think about that thing?"
Yeah, absolutely. And the tasks is a great thought too. I think I might have told this story on the podcast already, but I went to a party with a new social group about a year ago, and somebody post who had 2 episodes of the podcast stopped me, or like I was helping feed the cats for the host, and then I ran out of that task and I didn't know anyone else there, and it was a surprise party. So like the people I did know weren't there because they were part of the surprise effort, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So post prop was like, here, you look like you need something to do. And like took me under his wing to do things, which made me feel so much more ownership. And post and I have talked about it since. And he was like, oh, yeah, it's just a great way to make sure people feel like they're a part of the group. So it's the same
Mm,
thing you just said,
yeah.
that in a work situation, you can be like, yeah, let's go to do this thing together. And like, also that gives you more time with somebody to talk to them and like get to know them and make them feel comfortable. And
And see what their strengths are because there are so many different parts of audio.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's the same with any job, but there are different things to specialize in. So you can
Mhm.
see where someone's strengths or weaknesses are and then say, oh, this person might be really good at this thing. So I will show them. Also, I love that it sounds like that surprise party was also a surprise for you. Um, you were surprised. That's what I mean.
Uh,
By
by being there.
I guess so, yeah, not really knowing that many people.
Yeah, I didn't know anyone. I met all these
Mm,
people, and it was also a party where
mm.
everybody dressed up as the host.
That's
And
hilarious.
so everybody was just walking around essentially being like, "Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie." And, like,
Oh, that's so good. But
it was
yeah,
very good, but then I had to re-meet everybody later because I was like, "I don't know who you actually are."
no, yeah, oh, yeah, and, I'm a big context person, so if I
Yeah,
were to meet people at a Barbie party, I mean, 1, there's the problem of maybe eventually learning their real names, but then if I saw them at, like, the grocery store, I'd be like, "I don't know you." You know, I wouldn't even, but
yeah.
they'd be like, "Oh, hi," and I'd be like, "Oh my god, where have I met you from?" So relatable. And it's so interesting that you were being given tasks at, like, a social event, but I can have a hard time striking up a conversation with new people. So I kind
Yeah,
of love that idea of something to do, and animals are always a good point of topic, so
a good point of contact.
yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah.
Do you have any specific ways you're looking towards the future with your actions besides, like, just generally being nice and great?
Yeah, I would say especially over the past, like, maybe year or so, I've really grown into my figure them out. I love talking about my job. I feel like there is a bit of a problem with, like and it's a very American problem with having your identity tied so much to your job, but you
Mhm,
get into my field because you love it, and I mean, that's true with a lot of jobs, but I feel like with a lot of people in entertainment, it's next level. So, I'm really because I love talking about my job and sharing what I've learned, and I'm a very enthusiastic person, I've really enjoyed mentoring people. Again, that was a big part of my job at NPR, and I blogged for Sound Girls for a while, sharing, like, what I've learned doing that, and just generally being a resource for questions up and coming people have. I've been on panels, which does a couple of things. It gives me exposure, but it also, passes along information to up and coming people.
mhm.
Uh, so looking to the future, I love mentorship and passing along info to others. I mean, it does a lot of things for me as well. We're all a little bit selfish, right? So I feel like you can create community with like, oh, I get this new connection and I don't know where that will get me, but also it's really cool to like show this other person how to do something or talk about audio with them. And also on the teaching aspect, a value I find is in production, there's a lot of talk of, you don't slow things down, like you don't get in the way as like a technician person. And so what that means at the teaching stage a lot of the time is many people only have the patience to teach things once or twice. I'm generally down to show something to someone many more times than that. Like I said, I care more about like good work ethic and honesty. So if someone's really trying and they're just not understanding it, I'm more about figuring out a different way of explaining it, or if they're not going to understand this one thing and they are kind of I don't wanna say slowing things down because that feels really insensitive, but if something needs to happen and it's just easier for me to do it and show them later, that's a possibility, and also, again, figuring out what their strengths are. So, looking to the future, in any situation I'm in, I kind of try to evaluate what someone wants to do and also what they're good at doing and how I can help them in terms of this specific project. Because you never know what you teach someone in one instance, they'll carry on to the next one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely everybody has strengths and there's different skills, and I'm
Mhm.
more from the lighting year background of the theater, and, like, so I think about how some people are great at reading ground plans,
Mhm.
and some people are the right person to be organizing the shop, the lighting shop alone,
Yeah.
right? And some people are the right person to be hanging the moving lights because they're heavy.
I am not that person.
Right, and me neither. It turns out actually my joints are unstable and, like,
Oh my god.
right.
That's
When I said my shoulders hurt, they hurt. So, but that doesn't make the person unuseful to you,
Mhm.
just useful in a different context, maybe.
Yeah. And
But
another thing I'm doing, at least on the job, is giving honest and direct but kind feedback. I
mhm.
heard this mantra recently, like, "Clear is kind."
Yeah, it's a
Um
Brené Brown thing.
Oh, is it? I love her,
Mhm.
and I can't believe I didn't know that was from Brené Brown.
Yeah.
People don't grow if you don't talk to them, and as a neurodivergent, I get, like, a big old sense of rejection if I sense that people aren't telling me things, and it gives me anxiety.
Yes.
So, I try to do other people the courtesy of, "Let's talk about how we should do this, or how this thing should be done, or how it could be better,"
Well,
and
and
then
as
it's
a
up to that person to take
neurodivergent,
it.
yeah, totally. As a neurodivergent, I also don't know I'm doing things wrong.
Yeah. Social
So,
cues are hard.
right, at least just tell me. I'm happy
Yeah.
to change and readjust and whatever, but if I don't know, then
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly, and actually that helps everybody because then if you're direct to people who are more neurotypical, then they also get the information
Yeah, and it's
faster.
clearer. Everybody has the parameters they need to work around. There's not
Yeah.
the, like, guessing. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, that stuff like that should not be mysterious. I don't understand why there's this like, "Oh, I have to be polite, so I won't say something, and then I won't bring this person back on this project because they couldn't do the thing that I never showed them how to do."
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is and, there's the other side of it of, like, yes, if someone's showing let's reverse this for a sec. If someone is showing me how to do something and I'm not getting it, then it's up to me to figure out how I'm learning as well. Like, it's very much a
Yeah.
give and take situation. Oh, and then, you have to be open to receiving that feedback. So if someone tells me I'm doing something or I should be doing something a different way and I get defensive, then that isn't good either.
Mhm.
So but I also don't know if I have those quirks if people don't tell me I have those quirks. Like, hey, I appreciate hearing, hey, I told you this thing and I kind of felt like you got defensive. Like, I would appreciate hearing that versus and giving me another chance versus because you never know what anyone has going on in a given day as
And
well.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways, but when you're in a leadership position, I think it's important to give people multiple chances and
And try
yeah.
explaining things a different way. That's an important, really, thing too.
I Yes, and it's something I just remembered was because as you were saying that too, I also thought to myself, "Yeah, and don't assume people are stupid, because they think
Yeah.
differently." Exactly. When I got my start in audio, was a I was an intern at a theater company, and for 9 months, I made this was back in, like, 2010, so I made $75 a week and had housing, and that was my pay.
So
And I was very frazzled, and things wouldn't always, like, click immediately because I was very green, and also I had this, like, survival type stress, and I'd been asking my supervisor, "Hey, when I'm not running shows, I would like to do front of house work, like, how do I get involved in that?" And just so what ended up happening was I would miss a lot of things, and, I mean, I was also undiagnosed at this point,
right.
so,
So miss things
now that
like
I'm
misunderstand them?
misunderstand or miss details, which is pretty crucial, or misfire a cue, which is a big mistake. And it was so on the financial front, he said, "Oh, well, you're here to learn and that's your pay."
Mhm.
So, okay. So, and then a year or two later, they had an opening for a job and I applied and he interviewed me and he was like, he's kind of said something along the lines of, "Oh, well," forget his exact phrasing, but it was implied that I wasn't capable of picking up on things. And I bring this story up because you never know what someone's going through in a given time, and it also, if you throughout that whole situation, I sensed that people thought I was incapable, and it only made me more incapable. So, I think it's important to refrain from judgment because people can surprise you later. Like,
Yeah.
at this point, I've worked for a lot of big companies and I've done like everything in sound design and audio engineering. I've done live, I've done brand activations, I've done video games, I've done films, I've done radio, I've done podcasts. That person probably never thought I'd get to where I was today. And that was 9 months of my life. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't ever want to be a reason that someone's mental health or ability to work suffers. I mean, just because that would just make me feel bad. So, talking about actions for the future, it's trying to withhold judgment as much as possible. And then on a personal front, it doesn't do anything for me either because negative feelings are exhausting. And I'm not like a positive vibes only person. I think you need nuance in your feelings and whatnot. But coming down on people, I frankly find exhausting. Being angry is exhausting. Being sad is exhausting.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely find it a waste of my
mhm.
energy to be coming down on people.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we all slip up,
Yeah.
and that's when you apologize. I can
Yeah, it's a
definitely be.
lot less energy for me to be like, "Oh, here's how that could have been different," and,
Mhm.
like, "Let's move on," than
Yeah.
to be, like, thinking about it all day.
Yeah. Or if you're in a
And
pressure situation, like if you really have to get something done,
yeah.
and that someone's not quite delivering, just figure out a different way around it and teach and give feedback later
Yeah.
and take it from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What are you here to promote, Gilly?
That's a good question. The ways of working I've just described for sure. I also just started freelancing. My website is www.auralloonstudios.com. It's Auralune, so aural like ear and then loon like moon. My last name is Moon, so. And yeah, just here to promote
Kindness?
kindness, and building community isn't hard or a high level thing. It's something that you can do in every situation day to day. So
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here.
thank you for having me. I hope all that made sense.
Absolutely did. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Asteria's Combos. If you'd like to donate to the show and support my work, you can go to kofi.com/asteriasrest. That's ko-fi.com/asteriasrest. You can also buy my digital illustrations or hire me for life or values coaching on my shop, which is on stargirlcreative.com. You can also read about me there and find out anything else about what I work on. For speaking and workshops, you can email me at asteria@stargirlcreative.com. And if you just want to follow me and keep up, follow me on at asteria.elzea on Instagram and Threads. I'm so glad you're here and see you soon. We're Asteria's Convos, where we're community building the future.